I asked my mother to help me once. I was bleeding in the bathroom after what my uncle did. She looked at me, turned around, and closed the door. That's when I learned that asking for help could kill you. My name is Dorothy. I'm 68 years old. I grew up in rural Kentucky, in a house with no lock on the bathroom door, and a father who came home drunk every night. We had nothing, and the people who had the power to help us were the same people hurting us. This is about why I can't ask for help, why my hand shakes when I need to pick up the phone, why I'd rather break than bend. Every word is true. People don't understand why some of us can't ask for help. They think it's pride. They think it's stubbornness. They don't get that asking for help isn't just hard for us, it's dangerous. Our brains learned a long time ago that depending on someone means giving them power. And power, in our world, meant pain. I see it in others like me. The ones who work 3 jobs instead of asking family for money. The ones who'll sleep in their car before asking a friend for a couch. The ones who'd rather die than admit they're drowning. People call us strong, independent. We're not. We're terrified. My family had 7 kids. I was number 4. We lived in a house that leaked when it rained. My father worked construction when he wasn't too drunk. My mother cleaned houses for people in town. We never had enough of anything: food, heat, space, safety. But the worst part wasn't what we didn't have. It was learning that the people who were supposed to protect you were the ones you needed protection from. I was 6 the first time I realized other families weren't like mine. I went to a friend's house after school. Her mother made us sandwiches. Real sandwiches with meat and cheese. Not just bread with nothing in it. The house was warm. Her father came home and smiled. Didn't yell, didn't throw things, didn't make everyone disappear into corners. I remember thinking it was fake, like they were acting, because that's not what families did. That night I went home and asked my mother why we didn't have food like that. She slapped me across the face and told me to stop being greedy. I learned then that asking for things made you a target. Wanting something meant you were bad. Needing something meant you deserved whatever happened next. The house I grew up in had 2 bedrooms for 9 people. The walls were so thin you could hear everything. Every fight, every cry, every sound you didn't want to hear. The floor was bare wood with splinters that got in your feet if you walked without shoes. But we only had 1 pair of shoes each, so we saved them for school. Winter was the worst. We had 1 heater in the living room that barely worked. At night, all of us kids would pile together in 1 bed just to stay warm. We'd sleep in our clothes. Sometimes we'd wake up and see our breath in the air inside the house. I remember the feeling of being so cold your bones hurt. Like your body was trying to fold into itself just to find warmth. We ate whatever my mother could stretch. Beans, rice, bread. Sometimes nothing. I remember the feeling of being so hungry, your stomach stops growling and just goes quiet, like it gave up asking. My little sister used to cry from hunger. My mother would yell at her to shut up, said crying didn't fill your stomach. I learned early not to ask for more food, not to say I was hungry, because asking meant getting screamed at. or worse. My father would say we were lucky to have anything, that kids in other places had it worse, that we should be grateful for being cold and hungry and scared. The bathroom didn't have a door that locked. My father broke it off during one of his rages, said we didn't deserve privacy, so when you used it, anyone could walk in. And they did. That's how I learned that your body wasn't yours. That privacy was a privilege you had to earn, and we never earned it. My mother was always tired, not just regular tired, the kind of tired that lives in your bones. She moved through the house like a ghost, cooking, cleaning, barely speaking. When she did talk, it was usually to yell, to tell us to be quiet, to get out of her way, to stop being a burden. I don't remember her ever touching me in a gentle way. No hugs, no comfort. Just the back of her hand when we did something wrong. My father was different. When he was sober, he ignored us, wouldn't look at us, wouldn't talk to us, like we weren't there. But when he drank, which was most nights, he became something else. Loud, angry, violent. We learned to read the sound of his truck in the driveway, to know by the way the door slammed how bad it would be. The older kids tried to protect the younger ones. My oldest brother would take beatings meant for the rest of us. He'd step in front of my father and take the hit. I watched him get thrown across the room more times than I can count. I learned then that protection had a price, that asking someone to help you meant they'd get hurt instead. But none of that was the worst part. The worst part was my uncle. My father had two states, invisible or explosive. There was no in between. When he was sober, he was barely there. He'd eat his dinner in silence. Go to his room. We'd hear him and my mother fighting through the walls. Her begging him to stop drinking. Him telling her to shut up. Sometimes we'd hear things breaking. Sometimes we'd hear her crying. We learned not to react. When he drank, everything changed. He'd come home, and the whole house would shift. The air would get thick, heavy. We'd all go quiet and still like rabbits when they sense a predator. He'd walk in and start looking for reasons to be angry. The house was messy. We were too loud. Dinner wasn't ready. Something was wrong and it was our fault. I remember one night he came home and saw toys on the floor. Just small things, a few blocks, a doll. He started screaming about how we were ungrateful, how we didn't deserve anything. He picked up the toys and threw them at the wall. Then he started on my little brother who'd left them there, grabbed him by the arm and threw him into the corner. My brother hit the wall so hard he left a dent. He was 5. My mother tried to step in, told my father to stop. He turned on her instead, grabbed her by the hair and slammed her face into the kitchen counter. I heard the sound of her nose breaking. Blood went everywhere, all over the counter, the floor, her clothes. She didn't scream, just made this small sound like air leaving a tire. Then she dropped to the floor. We all just stood there, frozen, not helping, because helping meant becoming the target. My father looked at us and said if anyone said anything to anyone outside this house, it would be worse next time. Then he went to his room like nothing happened. My mother got up, cleaned the blood, and finished making dinner. Her face was already swelling, turning purple. But we all sat down and ate like it was normal. That's what we did. We pretended. We acted like everything was fine. At school, if teachers asked about bruises, we lied, fell down, ran into something. Kids are clumsy. They believed us because it was easier than dealing with the truth. And we learned that telling the truth about what happened at home didn't help. It just made things worse. The worst beating I remember was when my older sister tried to run away. She was 14. Packed a bag and tried to leave in the middle of the night. My father caught her at the door, dragged her back inside by her hair, threw her into the living room. Then he took off his belt, the one with the metal buckle, and he beat her with it while we all watched. My mother just stood there, didn't move, didn't say anything. My sister was screaming, begging him to stop, promising she'd never try again. Blood was coming through her shirt where the buckle cut her. He didn't stop until his arm got tired. Then he told her to get up and clean herself off. Said if she ever tried to leave again, he'd kill her. We all believed him. After that night, my sister changed. Stopped talking. Stopped trying. Just existed. Like something inside her had broken and couldn't be fixed. I watched it happen and learned that fighting back didn't work. That trying to escape didn't work. That asking for help from the people in charge just got you hurt worse. My father taught me that men were dangerous, that they would hurt you and no one would stop them, that your body was something they could use and break, and there was nothing you could do about it. He taught me that power meant violence, that love meant fear, that family meant pain. But my father wasn't the most dangerous person in that house. My uncle was my mother's brother. He lived a few miles away and came by most weekends. Everyone liked him. He was funny, nice, brought us candy sometimes. He'd play with us when he visited. My mother said we should be grateful to have an uncle who cared. She said most kids didn't have that. The first time happened when I was 7. My parents were fighting in their room. All my siblings were outside. My uncle was in the living room watching TV. He called me over, said he wanted to show me something. I went because you obeyed adults. That's what you did. He pulled me onto his lap, started touching my hair, said I was pretty. I didn't like it, but I didn't know how to say no. He smelled like cigarettes and something sweet I couldn't name. His breathing got heavier. He moved his hands down my back, under my shirt. I froze. My whole body went still like it wasn't mine anymore. He whispered in my ear, said this was our special secret, that I couldn't tell anyone, that if I did, bad things would happen. His hand went into my pants. I wanted to scream, but nothing came out. My throat closed up. I just sat there while he touched me, while he did things I didn't have words for. When he was done, he gave me candy and told me I was a good girl. I went to the bathroom after. Locked myself in even though the lock was broken. I sat on the floor and tried to understand what happened. I felt dirty, wrong, like something inside me was broken. I wanted to wash it off, but I couldn't. The feeling stayed in my skin. It happened again 2 weeks later. And then again, every time he visited. Sometimes he'd take me to another room. Sometimes he'd wait until everyone was asleep. He'd put his hand over my mouth so I wouldn't make noise. I'd stare at the wall and count things. Cracks, spots, anything to make my brain go somewhere else. The pain was worse than anything my father ever did. Not just physical pain, though there was that. The tearing feeling, the blood. But worse was the feeling of being trapped inside my own body, of watching it happen and not being able to stop it, of my mouth saying nothing while my head screamed. He'd tell me I wanted it, that I liked it, that I was special, that this was love. I didn't know what love was supposed to feel like, but I knew this wasn't it. This felt like dying, like pieces of me disappearing every time he touched me. After a few months, I stopped feeling much of anything. I'd go somewhere else in my head when it happened. I'd imagine I was floating on the ceiling looking down at a different girl. That girl wasn't me. She was someone else. Someone this was happening to while I watched from far away. That's how I survived it. By leaving my body behind. I tried to avoid him. I'd hide when he came over. Lock myself in the bathroom. But he'd find me. And if I resisted too much, he'd get rough. He'd grab my arm so hard it left marks. Push me against the wall. Threatened to tell everyone I was a bad girl. That I was the one who wanted it. That no one would believe me. The blood on my underwear became normal. I'd wash them in the sink and hide them at the bottom of the laundry. I'd scrub my skin in the bath until it was raw and red. Trying to get his smell off me. His touch out of my skin. It never worked. I could always still feel it. One day, my mother walked in on it. He had me on the couch, his hand over my mouth, doing what he did. The door opened and she stood there. We made eye contact. Me and my mother. I thought finally. Finally someone would help. Finally it would stop. She looked at me, then at him. Then she turned around and closed the door behind her. She walked away, like it wasn't happening, like she didn't see. That moment killed something in me, because I realized then that asking for help was pointless. That even if someone saw, even if they knew, they wouldn't help. They'd close the door and pretend they didn't see. They'd protect themselves, not you. The abuse continued for 3 more years, until I got older and he lost interest. Until he started looking at my younger sisters the same way he used to look at me. I tried to warn them, tried to tell them to stay away from him, but I couldn't say why. The words wouldn't come out. And what would I say anyway? No one helped me. Why would they help them? After that day when my mother saw and did nothing, I couldn't look at her the same way. Before, I thought she didn't know, that if she knew she'd stop it. But she did know, and she chose to do nothing. I tried to talk to her about it once. I was 12. I gathered all my courage and said we needed to talk. She was cooking dinner. I stood in the kitchen and said that Uncle had been hurting me, that he'd been doing things to me. I didn't use the exact words. I couldn't. But she knew what I meant. She kept stirring the pot, didn't turn around, didn't look at me, just said men are men. That's how they are. That I needed to stop making trouble. That we needed him. He gave us money sometimes when things were really bad. He helped fix things around the house. If I said anything, he'd stop helping. Then what would we do? She said it like it was my responsibility. Like I was the one causing problems by existing. By being a child he could hurt. She said I needed to grow up, that life was hard and complaining didn't change anything. Then she told me to set the table. I stood there trying to process what she'd said. She chose him over me. She chose money and help with fixing the house over protecting her daughter. She made a calculation in her head and decided I wasn't worth the cost of losing his support. That's when I learned the real lesson. Asking for help doesn't work because the people who can help you need something from the person hurting you. They'll sacrifice you to keep the peace, to keep the money coming, to keep things stable. Your pain is the price they're willing to pay. I started watching my mother differently after that, seeing all the ways she chose wrong, how she'd send me to the store with Uncle even though she knew, how she'd leave me alone in the house when he visited, how she'd close doors and turn away. Every choice she made said the same thing. I wasn't worth protecting. Years later, after I'd left home, I tried to confront her about it. I was in my 20s. I needed her to acknowledge what happened, to say she was sorry, to explain why she didn't help. She denied everything, said I was making it up, said I always caused drama, that I was a difficult child who invented things for attention. She rewrote history in her head, made herself the victim of a lying daughter instead of the mother who failed to protect. And I realized I'd never get what I needed from her. No apology, no acknowledgement, no closure. Because admitting what she did would break her. So she chose to break me instead. That taught me the final lesson. Don't ask for help, because even if you do, even if you tell the truth, even if you show them the blood and the bruises and the broken parts of you, they'll call you a liar. They'll say you wanted attention. They'll rewrite your trauma into fiction because accepting the truth is too hard for them. But life was about to hit me with another blow. When I was 16, my grandmother died. She was my mother's mother, the only person in the family who'd ever been kind to me. She lived 2 towns over and I'd visit her sometimes. She'd give me food, let me sleep in a real bed, never ask questions about the bruises. Just let me be there and be safe. She died and left a will. She had a small house and some money saved. Not much, but enough to matter to people like us. The will said the house would be sold and the money split between her kids. My mother and her brothers, including the uncle. My mother was supposed to get a third, about $15,000. For us, that was everything. That could have changed things. We could have moved. My mother could have left my father. We could have been safe. But my uncle convinced my mother to let him handle the sale. Said he knew about real estate, that he'd get them a better price. My mother trusted him. Why wouldn't she? He was family. He helped us. He was a good man. She signed papers, giving him power of attorney over her share. He sold the house, to himself, for way under value. Then he claimed my grandmother had debts no one knew about. He showed papers, receipts, things that looked official. He said after paying everything off there was only a couple thousand left. He gave my mother $2,000 and kept everything else. My mother believed him, or pretended to. I was old enough by then to know it was a lie. I'd seen my grandmother's papers. I knew she didn't have debt. He stole from us. stole our chance to escape. And my mother let him because questioning him meant admitting what he really was. And she couldn't do that. I tried to tell her. I brought up the numbers, the timeline, how nothing made sense. She told me to shut up, said I didn't understand how these things worked, that I was just a kid who didn't know anything, that Uncle had done us a favor by handling it at all. She chose to believe the lie, because the truth meant facing everything she'd ignored. It meant admitting that the man who helped us fix the house was the same man who raped her daughter, that the money he gave us was blood money, that every choice she'd made to keep him around had cost us everything. The $2,000 was gone in a month. Bills, food. My father drank most of it, and we were back where we started. Except now I knew for sure that even when there was a way out, the people in charge would sabotage it. They'd steal it. They'd lie about it. And everyone would pretend to believe the lie because the truth was too expensive. Around the same time, my older brother got in trouble. He'd been stealing small things from stores. Food mostly. He got caught and needed a lawyer. My parents had no money. They asked family for help. No one gave anything. Not Uncle. Not my mother's sisters. No one. They all had excuses. Times were hard. They had their own problems. They'd help if they could, but they just couldn't right now. My brother went to juvenile detention. He was 15. When he came out 6 months later, he was different, harder, angrier. He started using drugs. By 18, he was gone. Just disappeared one day. We heard years later he was dead. Overdose. No one went to the funeral except me. I watched this happen and learned that help doesn't come. Even when people have it. Even when you're family. Everyone is protecting their own stuff, their own comfort. Your emergency is not their problem. They'll watch you drown and say they wish they could throw you a rope, but their hands are tied. They're lying, their hands are fine. They just don't want to get them wet. I left home at 17. Didn't graduate high school. Just walked out one day and didn't go back. I had $50 I'd saved from a part-time job cleaning motel rooms. I took a bus to Louisville. Knew no one. Had nowhere to go. Slept in the bus station the first 2 nights. The decision to leave wasn't brave. It wasn't a moment of strength. I was sitting in that house and realized if I stayed, I'd die there. Not physically, though maybe that too, but everything in me that was still alive would finish dying. So I left because staying was worse than whatever happened next. The first few months were brutal. I slept in shelters when they had room, on the street when they didn't. I learned which areas were safer, where you could sleep without getting robbed or worse. I learned to sleep light, to wake up at any sound, to trust no one. I was hungry all the time, real hungry. The kind where you dig food out of trash cans and don't care. Where you steal from gas stations and run. Where you let men buy you meals and hope they don't want more than that. Sometimes they did. Sometimes I gave it because eating felt more important than dignity. I thought about asking for help so many times. Thought about calling home, going to social services, finding a church. But every time I got close, my hand would shake. My chest would get tight. I couldn't breathe. Because asking for help meant giving someone power over me, meant owing them, meant they could hurt me. And I'd already learned how that story ended. There was a woman at one of the shelters, older lady who ran the place. She was kind. She'd talk to me, ask her how I was doing. One night I broke down and told her some of it. Not everything, but enough. She listened, said she wanted to help, said there were programs, places I could go. She gave me papers to fill out. I took them, looked at them that night. All the questions, all the information they wanted. Where I came from, my family, what happened, why I left. Every question felt like a trap. Like if I answered honestly, they'd send me back. Or tell my family where I was. Or use it against me somehow. I threw the papers away. Never went back to that shelter. Moved to a different area. Because even kindness felt dangerous. Even help felt like a hook. I couldn't let anyone get that close. Couldn't let anyone have that kind of information about me. It was safer to be alone. But being alone all the time was killing me too. I was 18 by then. Had been on the street for almost a year. I looked in a mirror one day and didn't recognize myself. Thin, dirty, eyes that looked dead. I was becoming something I didn't want to be. And I realized I had to make a choice. Ask for help or die out there. I thought about it for days, weeks. The fear was like a physical thing in my chest. Heavy, constant. But underneath it was something else. Not hope exactly. More like anger. I was angry that they made me this way. That they broke me so bad I couldn't even ask for help without feeling like I was dying. And I was angry that they were still winning. Still controlling me. Even though I was miles away. That anger was the only thing strong enough to break through the fear. I walked into a social services office on a Tuesday morning. My hands were shaking so bad I could barely open the door. The lady at the desk asked if she could help me. I opened my mouth and nothing came out. I just stood there shaking. She asked again. I tried to speak. Still nothing. She came around the desk, pulled out a chair, told me to sit. Got me water, waited. I sat there for 10 minutes just trying to breathe, trying to make my throat work. Finally, I managed to say I needed help. Just those 3 words. I needed help. Saying it felt like dying, like I was pulling something out of my chest that was supposed to stay there. But once the words were out, something shifted. She asked what I needed. I said everything. I need everything. I don't have anything. I can't keep doing this. She asked questions. I answered them. Each answer felt like ripping off skin. Where was I staying? Nowhere. Did I have family? Not really. Was I in danger? Always. Had I been hurt? Yes. She didn't push for details, just wrote things down, made phone calls. By the end of the day, I had a place to stay. A real place. With a bed and a lock on the door. That night, I lay in that bed and cried. Not because I was happy, because asking for help had actually worked. Someone had listened and helped and didn't hurt me. It went against everything I'd learned, everything I knew. And I didn't know what to do with that. But the fear didn't go away. I waited for them to take it back. To ask for something I couldn't give. To use the information I'd given them against me. I barely slept. I kept my bag packed by the door ready to run. It took months before I could relax, before I could believe they weren't going to hurt me. And even then, even after it worked, the lesson stayed in my bones. Asking for help was dangerous. The fact that it worked once didn't mean it would work again. My brain had spent years learning that help equals harm. One good experience couldn't undo that, couldn't rewire what trauma had wired. I still feel it now, decades later. When I need something, when I'm struggling, the same panic, the same fear, the same certainty that asking will make things worse. I've gotten better at pushing through it, at asking anyway. But it never gets easy. Every single time feels like the first time. Like walking into that office with shaking hands and a closed throat. I'm almost 70 now. That girl who couldn't ask for help is still inside me. She never left. Sometimes I can ignore her. Sometimes I can't. When my car broke down last year and I needed a ride, it took me 3 days to call my neighbor. 3 days of walking miles to work because I couldn't make myself ask. It affects everything. Relationships, work, daily life. I've been married twice. Both ended because I couldn't let anyone help me. Couldn't let them in. They'd want to carry things for me and I'd panic. They'd offer support and I'd shut down. They'd try to take care of me and I'd feel trapped. Both of them left saying I didn't need them. They were right. Not because I didn't want them. Because needing someone felt like death. I've lost jobs because I wouldn't ask for help when I was drowning. Would rather fail than admit I couldn't do something alone. I've gotten sick and not gone to the doctor because I couldn't ask for time off work. I've lived in bad situations because I couldn't ask friends if I could stay with them for a while. The fear of asking has cost me more than anything else in my life. I've lost money, lost time, lost people I loved. All because my brain learned when I was 7 that asking for help meant getting hurt. And no amount of logic or good experiences can fully override that. It's wired too deep. Embedded in parts of my brain that don't respond to reason. I understand now what happened. I understand the psychology of it. How trauma teaches your nervous system to treat help as danger. How childhood abuse rewires your threat detection. How betrayal by caregivers makes trust impossible. I understand it. But understanding doesn't fix it. What I learned about abuses is they don't have to touch you to control you. They control you by breaking your ability to ask for help, by making you believe you're safer alone, by teaching you that vulnerability equals violence. Long after they're gone, long after they're dead, they're still winning because you can't undo what they did to your brain. What I learned about family is they'll sacrifice you to protect themselves. They'll choose comfort over your safety. They'll close doors they should have kicked open. They'll rewrite history to make themselves the victims. And they'll tell you it's your fault for not being worth saving. What I learned about myself is I'm still here. Not because I'm strong. Not because I'm a survivor. Because some part of me was too stubborn to die. That's all survival is sometimes. Just being too stubborn to give them what they want. I want people who went through this to know it's not your fault you can't ask for help. It's not weakness. It's not pride. It's your brain trying to keep you safe the only way it knows how. The problem isn't you, it's what they did to you. And the fact that you're still here, still trying, still getting up every day despite carrying all that weight, that matters. I want people who didn't go through this to understand that when someone can't ask for help, it's not because they don't want it. It's because asking feels like dying. So if you see someone struggling, don't wait for them to ask. They might never be able to. Just help. Just show up. Don't make them say the words that could kill them. I'm telling this story because I need people to understand why some of us are the way we are. Why we work ourselves to death rather than ask. Why we isolate. Why we can't let anyone close. We're not trying to be difficult. We're trying to survive the only way we know how, even if that way is slowly killing us. If this story means something to you, hit subscribe.